As we begin the third hour of Three-Man Front on this Thursday, we're just a couple days away from week 0 being kicked off. And, of course, half the state of Alabama is getting ready for what's going to happen 9 days from now in Tallahassee, Florida, at refurbished Doak Campbell Stadium as the Alabama Crimson Tide will go on the road as Kalen DeBoer. Big game on the road, and, of course, a big game for Florida State as well after coming off a 2-win season last year. And joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline to preview the upcoming season for the Florida State Seminoles and a brief look at next week's game as Alabama will head south is Jeff Culhane, who is the voice of the Florida State Seminoles. He joins us now on Three-Man Front. Jeff, I hope you're doing well. Hope things are well down in the Panhandle.
I am doing fantastic. It is great to be on with you guys and great to be on in Birmingham, obviously a college football crazy town. And I think we're all ready to go. Let's tee it up this Saturday, guys. We make that happen. I'm ready.
No, listen, I promise you we're ready. We do a countdown clock every day, and we started that thing about 150 days. So, yeah, we are ready to go. Before we start talking about this year's team, I'm just curious because – from a group of folks that we love college football, and we follow ACC football not as closely as the Southeastern Conference. But if you look back to 2024, is there anything in particular that you could highlight, a couple of areas in which you thought that was the reason why Florida State witnessed a season that they had never seen before in school history?
Oh, yeah, that wasn't a whole lot of fun, guys. That was a fall, to say the least, especially coming off of a 13-win season and winning at one point 19 games in a row from 22 into 23. And, I just think there was a perfect storm that came together all at once to create what turned out to be just one of the worst seasons in program history. And there was a lot of talent on that 2023 team, obviously. You lose 10 draft picks and 2 other guys that got free agent deals, and Florida State just was unable to replace those guys. And then you couple in, I think, some shortcomings in high school recruiting with that class who were seniors, a lot of injuries, playing game 1 in Dublin across the pond and being shocked by Georgia Tech. And it was a group that didn't have bad kids or bad young men, but you didn't have an alpha in that room, unfortunately. And when things got going sideways, that snowball just kept rolling downhill, and this team couldn't stop it. And so it was really a perfect storm, Pat, of just a lot of shortcomings all hitting at one time, and it just was something they could not get back under control, unfortunately.
And Jeff, changes in the offseason because of that 2-10 season from a year ago, especially with the coaching staff, not to mention the roster, but sticking with the coaching staff. Gus Malzahn leaving his post as the head man at UCF. We are very familiar, of course, here in this state, of covering him when he was the head man at Auburn.
Oh, yeah.
Why did Coach Norvell choose to tap Gus Malzahn, and what does he bring to this offense, specifically with the personnel that it has in it?
Yeah, well, as you guys know, I mean, when you think of Gus, you think of offense, and you think of wizardry, and you think of creativity and putting guys in spots to succeed and utilizing the talent that he has in creative ways. And, Gus even said, he said, look, I was really not interested in being a head coach anymore. And he was talking about either retiring or doing this. And so when Mike Norvell called him and discussed with him the opportunity to be at Florida State, the pros outweighed, the cons in his mind. And, those two go way back. Those guys worked together back in 2007, 2008 at Tulsa when Mike got his first full-time head coaching job at Tulsa. Was on staff with Gus and Herb Hand as well, who now is Florida State's offensive line coach, joining Mike Norvell and Gus coming up from UCF also. So, I think when you think of Gus, you think of the creativity, you think of the excitement. Obviously, he wants to run the football. He wants to be able to get the quarterback mixed in the run game as well. Enter in Tommy Castellanos, who was at UCF for a season with Gus a few years ago when he began his college career. And I'm excited to see that storyline play out throughout the season. When Gus Malzahn has been able just to focus on offense only, he's done some really impressive things. And I think that is obviously a huge storyline to keep an eye on for this game versus Alabama. but as this team and the personnel become more gelled together as the season moves along as well.
Jeff Culhane joins us here on the program. He is the voice of the Florida State Seminoles getting ready for the opening game against the Alabama Crimson Tide coming up a week from Saturday. Let's stay on the coordinator conversation for a moment because last year Florida State was 13th in the ACC in total defense. So Mike Norvell, what does he do? He goes out and he hires Tony White from Nebraska. Nebraska had a really top-notch defense last year. What are you hearing on that side of the ball through fall camp in regards to what Tony White has been able to bring to the table?
Well, Tony White has brought a high level of expectations, and I think it may, to a certain degree, it's been the shock to the system for some of the returning guys. And he has been unapologetic in speaking publicly about where his group has been at. He's been quite honest, early on in camp, not liking what he has seen or has asked for as far as effort and as far as, what needs to be done on a day-by-day basis. And I think you've seen some guys really emerge. Some other guys have had a tough time handling that. And Tony White has brought a new energy and a new attitude to this group defensively overall. And, he's a disciple of Rocky Long. He played for Rocky Long at UCLA in the early 2000s. Coach Long gave him his first full-time head coaching position collegiately as well. And so he's a disciple of that unique look, that 3-3-5 look. And so he's going to try and keep opposing offenses on their heels, guys. He's going to show different things. He's going to try and bring pressure from different areas. I think he really feels like he's got a tremendous secondary here at Florida State with the speed and athleticism that group has. And so he's going to do what he can to put the pressure and put opposing offenses in tough situations from a down and distance standpoint. And so it's going to be fun to follow. Adam Fuller was a four-man front kind of guy, did not bring a whole lot of pressure. And so this will be a unique look for Florida State fans in the Mike Norvell era on the defensive side of the ball.
What is the expectation for quarterback and transfer quarterback Tommy Castellanos in this Gus Malzahn offense, and how has the Florida State fan base received his comments publicly when talking about the first opponent, the Alabama Crimson Tide?
I think the expectation is for him to go out and be great, quite honestly. I mean, Florida State's a place where, even though the season a year ago was not successful by any means, it's a fan base that has high expectations. They expect to be in the national picture. They expect to compete with Alabama and with all the great programs in college football. And so the quarterback spot here is going to get the scrutiny that it does at every other blue blood in college football. And so he's here. He's got one opportunity. He's got a one season under Gus and Mike Norvell. And I tell you what, he truly has embraced that opportunity. And you're right, he did have the comments in late June about going up against Bama. He walked those back to a certain degree in what he was attempting to say at the ACC kickoff. But I thought he did a nice job in discussing it after the fact and say, look, I'm just trying to instill some confidence into my guys. This group won 2 games a year ago, and we need to go out and we have to play confidently because we know we're going to have to beat some great teams if we're going to have a shot to be a team in the college football playoff here this season. So, he's embraced the opportunity. His teammates have really rallied behind him. And from a fan base perspective, after a season ago where we didn't really hear a lot from the quarterback position the entire year, it certainly was a different feel, but I think the Florida State fan base likes his confidence, and they're excited to see what he can do as a dual-threat quarterback in this offense.
Jeff Culhane joins us, the voice of the Florida State Seminoles here on Three Man Front. Many rosters nowadays, it's a turnover all the time. It churns almost on a yearly basis now because of the transfer portal. Last year, it was certainly something that Florida State, they dipped heavily in. And to be honest, those transfer portal additions did not pan out. In regards to what is on the roster this year, do they feel more confident around the team that they're going to be able to get a few more hits than misses on this year's roster additions?
Well, that's the hope, obviously, and 49 new players on this roster. I mean, you look at every level, and it's doused in newcomers, the offensive line, the quarterback. There's newcomers at running back, wide receiver, tight end, the defensive line, linebackers. the secondary is an area where you do have a higher majority of returners, but Jeremiah Wilson, the Houston transfer who was with Tony White at Syracuse, has emerged as one of the vocal leaders, even though he got here after spring football in the secondary room at a cornerback spot. So, yeah, it's a team that is definitely going to have to rely on that. They're going to have to rely on these newcomers. And Mike Norvell has mentioned that in the offseason, this group has done a fantastic job of getting together on their own. The coaching staff did not have to force these guys to connect and spend as much time together and hang out. And I think that is an example of the veteran leadership that they brought in, the talent and experience that they brought in. And so it's a group that has a lot of questions. We're all going to find out together in a lot of ways versus Bama on the 30th. But I know the coaching staff has liked so far how this team has been able to connect and build some chemistry during fall camp.
So whether they win or lose against Alabama, does an outcome, let's say a win, does that change your personal outlook of what this team can do ceiling-wise this year? Or whether they win or lose, it's pretty much cemented in regards to maybe where you feel like this team is capable of for 2025?
Oh, I think the first game is a huge measuring stick. I mean, it's hard to be able to answer that question right now, really, with any sort of feel, This is a team that has not really the first time we're going to see them, guys, is August 30th. And, yeah, if they beat Alabama and look great doing it, and I know nobody believes that's going to happen, but if it does, then all of a sudden, sure, you have to recalibrate some things a little bit. And, even if Florida State does not beat Alabama, I think there is an opportunity with Florida State's schedule in the ACC to make their way to Charlotte and play for a conference championship and have a shot in a one-off to get into the college football playoff by winning the ACC title. Look, don't forget, and I know Clemson is a team that is a great program, and obviously Dabo has done great things, but Clemson wasn't getting into the ACC championship game last year until Syracuse upset Miami the last week of the regular season. So that's a squad as well that has had great success, don't get me wrong, but that was a team that benefited from the conference championship game and being able to make their way in and get some help and winning in Charlotte. I think Florida State's schedule, regardless of this game, lends itself to the chance to get there if they can stay healthy and beat the teams they're supposed to beat on their schedule.
That is Jeff Culhane. You can hear his voice a week from Saturday as he is the voice of the Florida State Seminoles as Alabama will come calling in week number 1. Jeff, we appreciate you spending some time with us today. We're looking forward to the game next Saturday and hope you'll come back as the season progresses.
Great to talk to you guys. Thanks for having me. We'll have a good one.
Thanks, you. Appreciate it very much. That is Jeff Culhane. He is the voice of the Florida State Seminoles. Joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
It's so warm outside. Summer's still here in the deep south. That means our friends at Stark Exterminators, they are busy. Let them be busy in your yard, your place of business. The stinging insects, the biting kind that you want to prevent when you're out there trying to have fun, maybe watch a game outside, grilling outside, entertaining while the weather's still nice. Well, they can come to your home, your place of business, and give you the free home or business pest inspection, absolutely free. 855-STARK now, or go to starkexterminators.com. It's a company that's been family-owned for over 61 years, and they're going to use the most environmentally safe and effective solutions available. That's good news for you. That's good news for your family, and that includes your pets. Stark Exterminators. Call them today for the free home or business pest inspection, 855-STARK now, or go to starkexterminators.com. We continue here on Three Man Front. We just heard from the play-by-play voice of the Florida State Seminoles, the Southern Gentleman, momentarily.
Great conversation with Jeff Culhane, who is the Director of Broadcasting, voice of the Florida State Seminoles. I know FSU Dave will be pleased by that interview. He pointed out some potential positive things that could happen to this Florida State football team this year. None of us believe that it's going to be as bad as it was last year. I mean, Gus Malzahn is a good offensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator, very good. Now the question is the Jimmy and Joe's in place that they can execute and they can do the things that they need to do? And could they win enough games in the ACC that could find their way to Charlotte? So, see what happens.
If we're asking score, and we'll get closer to it, I'm not going to make you stick with this. But right now, what, in generalities, where could you see a score being for this game? I could see 28-13.
I'm going.
Alabama.
Yeah, right now I would put it 38-17.
Right now, Vegas says it's going to be 50.5. So obviously, if it's 28-13, that's 41 points. Mm-hmm. So that's way below the under.
Yep.
So Vegas believes this is going to be a pretty good scoring game.
All right, 30-21.
No.
35-16.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah?
Yeah. That sounds better.
Garbage touchdown, 2-point conversion late.
Yeah, for Florida State.
There you go. Any big takeaways from what Jeff told us?
Listen, everybody's undefeated right now, so everybody is going to be positive, which they should. As I was looking at their schedule, open up with Bama, then they play East Texas A&M, which is an FCS school.
All right, so they're 1-1.
Kent State,
2-1.
At Virginia.
I'll give them Virginia, 3-1.
Okay. Then they're at home against Miami.
All right, 3-2.
Okay. Pittsburgh at home.
I'll give them that one.
At Stanford.
Give them that one.
They got a bye. Then they play at home against Wake Forest.
I'll give them that one.
It's pretty good so far. Then they go to Clemson.
All right, loss.
Virginia Tech at home. Right now, you say a win?
Yeah.
Then they finish up their final two games are on the road at NC State in Raleigh and then at Florida against the Gators.
1 of 2 at best, maybe lose both.
So that's,
7-5?
7-5, 8-4.
8-4 ceiling?
Yeah, I think 8-4 for Florida State. That'd be a really nice turnaround.
Going from 2 wins to 8 wins?
Absolutely.
Or
Get
even
you right
7
back
wins?
on track. Mm-hmm. Make you feel better about that investment you made in Norvell?
Over 40 new players on the roster. It's a lot.
That's a lot. It's not the most we've seen in college football this year, but that's a ton of turnover. But if you're a Florida State fan, you probably
happy with that.
Yeah, you welcome 40 new guys, right?
You needed 40
Let's have the
guys.
reset. Let's get the stink of that last season and those guys gone. And they've tried to do that through the coaching ranks and through the roster.
Well, and I know we've given Castellanos a hard time because he has, kind of opened his mouth a lot this offseason. But and Jeff didn't totally go into this, but I think we also all recognized last year they made a massive blunder spending what they did on DJU and bringing him in to be the quarterback. And that right there, I think, is what
And
really,
let's just be honest,
that set them up for failure.
None of the Alabama guys that got out of the transfer portal, none of them performed.
I know FSU Dave's excited about Earl Little and what he can do in the secondary, but yeah, no, they weren't.
Who was a wide receiver? He
Malik
just transferred
Benson.
again. Malik Benson.
Yeah, Roydell, not a huge factor. Maybe some of those guys hit for him this year, but I think last year you spent over $1 million on a quarterback that was one of the worst quarterbacks in all of college football, and hard to recover from that.
Speaking about spending money, Sam Pittman is speaking at a local Arkansas touchdown club this morning, and he was talking about they have spent this is a direct quote, "We spent a lot of money on the offensive line, a lot of money. I think it was money well spent," end of quote. Over 50 new players on that Arkansas roster. But according to Sam Pittman giving a speech this morning, he feels like that they spent their money wisely in regards to their offensive line.
Okay. Trenches are important.
Yep. You got an athletic, mobile quarterback. You provide him protection. He can sit back there and create all day. And he's dangerous. Taylor Green is when you give him time. I got question marks about the wide receivers. You lost Armstrong and some other guys, and especially the defensive side of the ball. But they'll be competitive. They'll play hard for their coach. But this is always fun. Everybody's 0-0. Everybody's optimistic about the season. Things go this way. The ball bounces this way. Hey, we could be looking at a bowl. Hey, we could be looking at a college football playoff. Sadly, most of us will be disappointed.
Yep.
That is today's edition of Things to Look Forward to. Yesterday was Pat painting the picture of the 2027 work stoppage in Major League Baseball. That is today.
Speaking of Major League Baseball, your Braves won again last night.
Hey.
How about that? They have now won 10 of their last 12.
Hurston Waldrop, here's to you.
Yeah.
By the way, and we hit on that side of the prize picks.
Schlittler did his job last night.
How many strikeouts?
He had 6 or 7. He had a perfect game through 6 innings.
Woo.
But he had 6 or 7 strikeouts, so we hit on
Hurston
that as well.
didn't allow a run and 7 strikeouts, Pat.
Nice.
Pat seems very impressed by that.
No, we were talking about it.
Yeah, no, I was sitting here looking at fan graphs.
What are they saying?
90 wins for the Braves.
3% chance?
Oh, for making the playoffs?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no chance.
We're only 9.5 games back in the wild card. Come on.
Zero chance.
I figured it out. To finish 500, to finish 81-81, the Braves have to go 23-12 from this point on.
That's very similar to numbers we were getting earlier in the season, my friend.
That's
23-12. They've won 11 of their last 14.
Fangraphs says you're going to finish 76-86. 10 games under.
I can see that too.
I mean, all things considered with how bad I know that's disappointing, but I
got a lot of games with the Phillies left. We got games with the Cubs left. We've got games with the Mets left. We got games with the Molly's Tigers left.
Woo.
We got some tough opponents.
Yeah, you got the Mets this weekend, off today. Got the Mets coming up over the weekend. There was a story this morning that Major League Baseball and ESPN have a framework deal in place that would give the network the exclusive rights to sell the out-of-market regular season games digitally. If you're a subscriber like I am to MLB.bat, which allows you digital access to all games out of market. Now, when the Cardinals come to Atlanta, I'm blacked out. I cannot watch. I have to be forced to watch the Braves broadcast, which is stupid.
Hey.
But it's interesting because ESPN pulled out of their deal with Major League Baseball. It was a 3-year deal where Sunday night baseball games were going to air, and also some of the playoffs. And so now what ESPN has done is they're going to continue to air like weeknight games, but they're not going to have the Sunday night package. But now they're going to own or sublease the Major League Baseball.bat digital package. And so earlier today, ESPN launched its much ballyhooed direct-to-customer, the DTC, which now you can get ESPN, Hulu, ESPN Plus, Disney Channel, all of that on one service. And they redid the ESPN app. So with that announcement this morning, it made me think back, and Conrad and Molly will not remember this, but I know you will, Landrum, and I know our audience will. Back in 2006, ESPN built an entire business on creating a wireless service specifically for sports nuts like us. Fans would have to buy a special phone. Do you remember this, Landrum? The special flip phone?
Yes.
Okay. Fans would have to buy a special phone on which they would receive score updates. You could launch Gamecast, and you could browse ESPN.com content and a host of other features. It was called ESPN Mobile. Have you ever heard of that, Conrad? Do you know anything?
Yes, I've heard of this. I don't remember it because I was like 10, but yes.
Landrum, you remember it?
Yeah.
It was a little Motorola Razr phone.
Yep.
That's what it was.
There's somebody who had one.
So for the privilege of carrying sports in their pockets. Now, keep in mind, this is 2006. Customers had to buy the ESPN branded phone. It was the Sanyo MVP. It retailed for $399 just for the phone.
By the way, in 2006, that was like putting a down payment on a house.
That's a lot of money.
Now we think about it in phone terms and go, that's nothing.
So by July of 2006, the handset was available for free with a rebate and a 2-year commitment to the service. So just a couple months later, ESPN rolled out the Samsung Ace, which resembled the Motorola Razr phones. That's the one I remember that you could purchase, and then the ESPN service would come through. So the lowest price plan that was offered for this ESPN Mobile, so you buy the actual hardware, and then on top of that, you had to pay $35 a month for 100 minutes of access on the phone. So just think about how much you do on your phone now, Conrad, because almost everyone has unlimited data.
I was about to say that comes out to about 3 minutes a day that you could use the phone.
Now, later on, because the service was so bad because nobody was purchasing it, they lowered it to $40 a month, but you got 400 minutes instead of 100 minutes. ESPN sunk $150 million in this project. $150 million. That is the equivalent, if you take what today's money goes for, that's around $240 million. So almost $250 million they put in this project, ESPN Mobile.
And this came out in 2006?
2006.
That's hilarious because you know what came out the next year? The phone that every single person in the world has, the iPhone.
Yes.
You know what's interesting about that minutes thing? Think about how bad that would suck. If you actually purchase that, you're sitting there like many of us do. You're lying in bed. You're looking at stuff. You fall asleep. You leave it open.
So they even spent.
That's a good point.
There go your
think
minutes.
about that. Yeah.
So think about this. They spent $240 million in today's money on the project, and then they bought a $30 million Super Bowl ad to help promote the ESPN Mobile. They aired their first streamed ESPN event of all time was Michigan defeating Vanderbilt 27-7. And you could watch it on that little mobile phone. There ended up being, I think, less than 10,000 people nationwide bought the service.
I know somebody who did. Used to be friends with them.
Less than 10,000. At that time in 2006, there were 233 million cell phone subscribers in the United States, but less than 10,000 got ESPN Mobile. And then right after that ESPN Mobile, they shut it down. And then, obviously, a year later, they launched the ESPN app on iPhone, and the rest, as we say, is history.
You guys have that friend or know that person that they always – most of the time, they've got a lot of money, but they have to have the newest, the latest, the greatest, even if they're not even interested in so much. This person wasn't even a huge sports fan.
Yep.
But had to have it just to show the way they had it.
And now, today, they have launched their new ESPN app that gives you everything ESPN has to offer, and it's less than the phone plan was in 2000.
Remember when the Nike watch came out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had like two of them.
It's just funny, all of these things. Apple's took that idea and went, we can do that better, and a year later, they just take over the market.
Yeah. Coming up next, Brett Norsworthy, Ole Miss Radio Network, WHBQ, joins us on his weekly hit here on Three Man Front.
12:35, three-man front. While we're waiting on the Southern gentleman, Brett Norsworthy, his college football season debut here on the show. He joins us throughout the year, but had a little bit of a break. We last saw Brett their SEC Media Days in Atlanta.
He was our neighbor.
Yep. Text line is open. Interesting text coming in. Philip and Hoover. Text into the show, going back to the Stallions UFL. Let's be real. The only way the Stallions stay is if the city buys up the tickets for their own interest with a facility and development in that entertainment area. If that's the case, they should just go. The damage is done, and I will never give the league another dime.
Well, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline from a city that was once, I assume that they're not going to have a team next year, and that is the wonderful city of Memphis, Tennessee. They had the Showboats for a couple years. Brett, it looks like Birmingham potentially could go the same road as your Showboats are in the UFL.
Yeah, I saw my last Showboat game in 1985 when they got beat in the playoffs by the Oakland Invaders. And then 40 years later, I saw my last one. I don't think it'll be another one in 40 years.
I concur. I agree with that. Okay, so enough of the spring football. Let's talk about the football that we're all fired up about. It's going to take place in 2 days. And, of course, we've got everything kicking off next week. And just tell us about what you've heard in fall camp for the Ole Miss Rebels as they get ready. As Lane Kiffin this year, this team is a little bit under the radar as opposed to what it was last year.
Well, it's a lot of new. It's a lot of new for everybody now in college football and college sports every year, but even particularly for Ole Miss, because in the Lane years, he was used to looking out there and seeing number two, whether it was Matt Corral or Jackson Dart. Now he'll look out there and he'll see number 13, and he'll see a player that's ready to go. And I think will be big time, and will be big time early in Austin Simmons. And he'll just be the third Ole Miss left-handed quarterback that I ever can remember. And he'll be the first since Brent Schaefer, but the first Ole Miss left-hander that I remember also wore number 13 from Vestavia Hills, Paul Head.
Paul Head, I remember that.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. And Paul, I was not with Ole Miss then on the radio crew, but covered a lot of games and was around a lot. And Paul is much beloved in the Ole Miss football universe and was universally acclaimed as a great teammate. So we look out there and we see a lefty number 13.
Heck yeah. As far as the left-handed quarterback, Austin Simmons, who he's going to be throwing to, who is that wide receiver room? Who's standing out? Who should our listeners be looking for this season, Brett?
Oh, it's a lot of new names. And Lane Kiffin has said he thinks it's the deepest receiving group that he's had at Ole Miss. And I agree. But I think it starts with Caden Lee. He's a returning player, been in the program 2 years, played great in the Peach Bowl 2 years ago, and was, kind of the third, fourth option a lot of times through the years. And now he's being asked to be this year's Mr. Reliable like Jordan Watkins so often was. And now Watkins looks like he's going to make the 49ers and contribute with them. But it starts with Caden Lee, and then there's a lot of, different names. Transfer from Penn State, transfer from here and there and everywhere like it is in college football. But it's deep and it's loaded, and at tight end, the first name is Daquan Wright, who played really well last year, had a big bowl game in the Gator Bowl against Duke. And then Ole Miss was really counting on Luke Haas. He's been hurt. It's going to be a while into the year, but they're counting on Caleb Odom to get a lot of catches at tight end, not at wideout.
All right, let's talk about the defense, because I was doing a little bit of math, but 7 years before Pete Golding arrived in Oxford, Ole Miss's defense typically ranked around 50th in America. And since Pete Golding has been there, the defense has surged to the point to where now Pete Golding is one of the highest paid assistant coaches in all of college football. And Ole Miss is a top 10 defense. Talk to us about that group that we used to call the Land Sharks and what's anticipated for the Ole Miss defense this year under Pete Golding.
I think it has a chance to be just as good as last year. Yes, a lot of the names are going to be different. And most of the defensive names have been through the normal high school recruiting, old-fashioned recruiting in state, Centarian Perkins and Cam Franklin and others. And we got Princeville Umanamiellen's brother transferring from Nebraska, Princeville Umanamiellen. Can't walk through the Grove without running into a Umanamiellen these days at Ole Miss. But Deshaun Womack from LSU will be counted on at defensive end. I think the Ole Miss defense will be just as good as last year and pretty loaded up front and at linebacker. The question for most right now is in the secondary, but I think there's enough back there to have it covered, starting with Chris Graves, another player that's been in the program 2 previous years, and he played well in that Peach Bowl win over Penn State 2 years ago and had good spot duty last year. But now really kind of the defensive version of Caden Lee, it's your time, really being counted on.
Brett Norsworthy joining us here on Three Man Front, WHBQ, talented radio host there in Memphis, Ole Miss Radio Network as well. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. As we zoom out from that program, look at the SEC as a whole. Who is that team, Brett, as we enter week 1 of the season from the Southeastern Conference that you are approaching with cautious trepidation, if you will?
I think it's probably South Carolina. I know it's South Carolina, and it's my boldest preseason take. I'm not buying any of that. I have South Carolina going 5-7.
Mark that.
Okay. All right.
No, him saying that, Brett's going to look like a genius, because he would be the only person that I've heard say 5-7.
And next week, I promise you, Virginia Tech will be my ain't scared lock of the year, straight up. But that's not my pick this week. This week it's my good buddy Dan Mullen laying 26.5 with UNLV. Give me Idaho State plus 26.5. They're going to own Vegas. They own that state.
Wow, he's already come out of the gate.
We've already got
fire.
our I ain't scared bold prediction. All right, we got Idaho State plus the 26.5 over the Fighting Dan Mullins.
Yeah, he's got that.
And you got next week with the Hokies, so got it covered next week. No, I'm not buying any of it with South Carolina. I mean, you look at that schedule, and there's nobody out there that should have South Carolina with more than 9 wins. Opening day against Virginia Tech, then against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. Then they go to the other Columbia against Mizzou. They had to go to Baton Rouge. They get Oklahoma. They get Alabama at home. This ain't 2010. It's not going to happen to Bama there. South Carolina will be the flop of the year.
Okay, so at one point in time, you and I talked during the early months of the summer, and just our schedules just never meshed together. You were our neighbor in Atlanta during SEC Media Days, but you were on the air a lot, and we were on the air, and so we could never able to get you by to join us from SEC Media Days. But you and I had a previous conversation, and you were figuring out the conference for 2025, and I apologize that I do not have this answer to this question. That's why I'm asking you on the air. But at one time, you were telling me that you anticipated, as you were working through the season, that there might not be a 10-win team in the Southeastern Conference. Did you go ahead and finalize that potential prediction, or
No.
do you have someone that's actually going to crack the double digits in wins?
The first time I did summertime W's and L's in lightly shaded pencil, and I did it, and it without kind of having to pencil whip it, except for 2. I had 8, 9, and 3 teams, and then I figured it to get to 10. Well, I've moved away from that final prediction. I'm going to have 4 10-win teams, but I don't know how much I trust that. I really think I trusted my first inclination back in the summer, and you know who else trusts me? Las Vegas. There's not a single SEC team that has a bigger over-under number than 9.5. There's not anybody at 10, and the days of Alabama and Georgia being at 11 and 11.5 season win totals. So I think Vegas thinks like I do, really good. But it is dispersed. It is spread out. It is very equal. But I have settled in on 4 at 10 and 2, and that's my 4 SEC playoff teams. That's Georgia and Alabama. That's my SEC championship game. And LSU and Ole Miss also being 10 and 2. Maybe bolder than South Carolina at 5 and 7. I've got Texas 9 and 3, and that's losing opening day at Ohio State, and then during the season losing to Georgia and at Texas A&M.
You always deliver, Brett. And to be that was your I Ain't Scared bowl prediction for week 0, correct? Idaho State plus the 26.5. You got a feel on any other games?
These games do matter. Remember a year ago on week 0, what if SMU doesn't come back late against Nevada and win that game? How different the rest of the season could have played out.
There's no doubt. I'm going to be locked in on Hawaii coming up Saturday evening.
And favored in that game on CBS, big CBS, Gary Danielson on CBS Saturday night. But also this about Texas, and as much as I love them, and they are, and they've earned it, first name of SEC football, it's the Mannings. But among the 3 Mannings and now the 4th that have played, we've got a grand total of 1 SEC championship ever. And that was Peyton in 97 beating Auburn.
And that's something. And then, of course, Tennessee won the national championship. A lot of people forget it was a quarterback from the state of Alabama that won Tennessee a national championship in 1998. Peyton Manning was already gone. So
he was gone. He was a rookie, setting a rookie record for interceptions with the Colts that year.
Sure was. Brett, we are so thrilled, so happy that you've agreed to join us again weekly as your typical 12:30 spot on Thursdays. We look forward to the rest of the Southeastern Conference getting into the fun next week, but look forward to a great season.
Thanks, Brett.
It is an honor to be on with y'all, and y'all enjoy the games. Away we go. Here we are.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it very much. Brett Norsworthy from WHBQ in Memphis. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Stuff that Brett just told us we'll discuss, as well as your text. We'll get to the Jocks text line, 205-834-9450. The Thursday edition of 3-Man Front rolls on here on Jocks. Toe has officially met leather with the appearance of the Southern gentleman, Brett Norsworthy. Always fun. Woo! If you missed it, what he had to say about the South Carolina Gamecocks, He continued that message. He is not buying South Kakalaki. He is
Flop.
not buying Lenora Sellers and whatever big-time, huge NIL deal he got to keep him there in Columbia. Brett said mark it down, 5-7.
And he's the so that I think that was a surprise to a lot of people. He also, I believe, is the second person we've had on today behind Trey, talking about Texas 9-3.
Texas 9-3.
Which I think is surprising. But yeah, South Carolina 5-7. I mean, that would be. I mean, that's about what we expected from them last year. So to go into this year with all these expectations and to end up not even going to a bowl game, that would be shocking.
4 teams he predicts that will finish 10-2. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss. Those are his 4 10-2 teams. Alabama and Georgia, I guess, playing for the SEC championship, which I can't remember. We had Alabama over Texas, right?
That's what I had, Alabama over Texas.
I love Brett. He just sent me a text, and all it is 5 football emojis.
He's ready, man.
He gets so amped up. You can get amped up. Speaking of amps, how about some boutique fitness? Our friends at Mandu, you can go in, claim your free session today. It's located conveniently there in downtown Homewood, but it's a 15-minute workout. It's the first FDA-approved electrical muscle stimulation training program in the country. They got personalized fitness regimens, small classes, state-of-the-art studios that make Mandu the safest and most effective alternative to a crowded gym. I do Mandu. Damian Mitchell's done Mandu. So many other Jocks listeners have. Mandu, they put you in a suit, they hook you up to a machine, sends those electric pulses, various parts of your body. 15-minute workout, you're going to get results, I promise. I don't know if you're going to like it. I can almost promise you're going to like it. You're going to love the results because you will get them. Mandu in downtown Homewood. Claim the free session. They'll put you through the workout. You decide for yourself. MANDUU.com. Learn more there. Tell Paul and the gang that Landrum from Jocks sent you.
So Auburn football is expecting some good news possibly tonight at 7 o'clock as Braylon Womack, a 5-star DB from Flowood, Mississippi. It's going to come down to his verbal commitment to either Auburn, Florida, Ohio State, or Texas A&M. Most recruiting folks tell you that Auburn has the inside track. Matter of fact, Ohio State websites, they're saying that Auburn is considered to be the aggressive front runner. He is the number 13 overall player in all of high school football, according to 247. Number 1 safety in high school football. And, of course, the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi. So we'll wait to see if Auburn does get the good news. Alabama names 4 captains today: Parker Brailsford, Tim Keenan, and Deontay Lawson, along with the starting quarterback Ty Simpson. So those are your permanent captains at the capstone.
Text line 205-834-9450. Let's get into some of your text. James with his I ain't scared bold prediction is that Auburn will claim its 10th national championship after winning the Yellowwood Bowl at Progressive Stadium after going 7-6. I see what you did there, James. Josh in Huntsville just lets us know he's going to be overflowing with ecstasy if FSU somehow beats Alabama.
What will you be overflowing with if that happens, Conrad?
Blood.
Depression.
Alcohol.
Don't get arrested.
I was going to say ecstasy, but that makes you feel good, right? And I don't want to feel good after that. So no, not that. Alcohol and depression.
Goodness. This one comes in from North Carolina. Landrum, the day the Auburn National Championship, in air quotes, expansion came out, a little War Eagle bird whispered to me that Mr. Yellowwood was a big push to make that happen. Then a couple of days later, Yellowwood sponsor on the field, part of that deal perhaps? ? Thoughts? Well, you just laid out that theory. I could buy that theory. Yeah, I could certainly buy that theory. Don't know if that's the case, but I know that Auburn and John Cohen, they're certainly excited that Yellowwood has agreed to a 8-figure deal to put that Pat Dye Field Yellowwood logo being smaller on the 20s. You'll see that at Jordan Hare this season. Revenue streams, it's all about it. When does Alabama break down and do it, Conrad? And who is that sponsor?
It won't be long. Maybe Yeezy will do it if I had my way.
I got a great endorsement deal for DeBoer. Cuts. Clothing line. I don't think they have collars. Just an idea.
Maybe Peter Millar. We'll see.
Cuts, you're on the clock. We'll continue three-man front.